At 11:15 a.m. on March 7, 2008, Hong Kong's 999 Emergency Control Center received an extremely strange call. On the other end was a man's voice, but what startled the operator was the terrifying calmness in every word he spoke. The man casually stated, "I just killed someone." His cold delivery, without a hint of trembling or panic, left the operator in disbelief. Thinking this might just be a prank or harassment call, the operator carefully confirmed multiple times. "Are you serious? Are you sure about what you just said?" Yet in response to this skepticism, the man maintained his composed tone and firmly stated, "That's right, I just killed my ex-girlfriend." He didn't stop there. He voluntarily provided his full personal information, including his name and the exact address where the incident occurred. He also promised to put down all weapons and fully cooperate with police when they arrived. A murderer who had just committed such a heinous crime yet remained so calm, picking up the phone himself to call the police and turn himself in. This was something the experienced officers at the control center had never encountered in their entire careers. Although the story sounded absurd and almost unbelievable, following professional protocol that no reported crime should be ignored, the operator immediately notified the police. Within moments, a team of officers equipped with full gear, along with paramedics carrying complete medical equipment, quickly set off toward the reported location. However, during the brief time law enforcement was en route, the 999 control center unexpectedly received another emergency call. This time, the caller was a young woman who identified herself as Zheng Qiaoru. Her voice sounded somewhat panicked and worried as she explained that a man had just called her, saying he had killed someone. She provided the specific address he had given her: Shek Lei Estate, Kwai Tsing District, New Territories, Shek Ka House, Unit 2206. When the operator cross-referenced this information with the previous call, a chill ran down their spine. The address the young woman provided matched exactly with the one left by the mysterious man earlier. This was no longer a coincidence, but practically a confirmation that a murder had indeed occurred at Unit 2206 of Shek Ka House. When the police and ambulance finally arrived at the reported location, the scene outside Unit 2206 of Shek Ka House was strangely quiet, completely opposite to what they had imagined a murder scene would look like. Everything outside the apartment door appeared completely normal, disturbingly silent, as if nothing had happened at all. The officers approached the door, knocked, and announced their identity following standard procedure. Within moments, the door slowly opened, revealing a man whose clothes and limbs were covered in streaks of fresh blood that had begun to dry. What made everyone present shudder was his demeanor, calm to the point of being cold and emotionless. After opening the door for the police, he said nothing, showed no fear or anxiety, but casually turned around, walked inside, and sat down on the living room sofa. The officers followed him into the apartment, and as their eyes traced his gaze, a horrifying scene that would haunt them forever appeared before everyone. Blood had splattered throughout the living room, covering the white walls, spreading across the floor, and soaking into every piece of furniture. Right beside the sofa where the man was sitting, a woman's body lay motionless on the floor. Her upper body was covered with a windbreaker. Through the jacket, one could faintly see she was wearing a white shirt, now drenched in blood, and dark jeans. But what made even the most experienced officers hold their breath in horror was the position between her left arm and hip, where a human head had been placed, completely severed from the body. The subsequent forensic examination revealed the horrific brutality of this murder. The victim's body bore a total of 66 stab wounds. The chest area alone had sustained 15 penetrating stab wounds. By analyzing the position and direction of the wounds, forensic experts reconstructed the terrifying sequence of the attack. The victim was attacked while standing. The first stab wounds caused severe blood loss, causing her to collapse to the floor. But the killer didn't stop there, continuing to unleash his fury on her, even as she lay helpless on the ground. The murder weapons left at the scene consisted of 2 knives, one larger and one smaller. Both knives were covered in the victim's blood. Such cold-blooded, brutal behavior truly makes anyone who hears about it shudder in horror. Through investigation and identity verification, police confirmed that the victim was Li Ruyi, a young woman who had just turned 19 years old. The perpetrator who heartlessly took her life was none other than Liang, 25 years old, her ex-boyfriend. Li Ruyi was born in 1989, the youngest daughter in a family with 3 sisters. In 2000, she moved with her family to Shek Ka House, the very place where this tragic incident would later occur. After the eldest sister got married and moved out, the second sister's boyfriend moved in with the family. From a young age, Ruyi showed athletic talent that surpassed her peers. In 2002, while in 8th grade, she was selected for her school's swimming team thanks to her excellent swimming abilities. Shortly after, she participated in an inter-school swimming competition and brought home impressive results. The following year, with her talent and continuous effort, Ruyi was elected captain of the swimming team. That same year, she won the championship in the women's 164-foot freestyle event. Not only did she shine in swimming, but Ruyi also proved her talent in cross-country running. She represented her school in inter-school cross-country competitions and helped her team achieve 8th place overall. With such outstanding achievements, in the eyes of her teachers and parents, Ruyi was their pride, a well-behaved, talented daughter whom everyone loved. After graduating from the science track in high school, Ruyi decided to pursue her passion for sports by enrolling in a sports club management course. In March 2007, she was sent by her school to intern at a sports club. Besides her internship work, she also took on a part-time position as a swimming coach to gain experience and earn extra income. The young woman's life was opening up with plans and dreams ahead. But no one could have known that at this very workplace, Ruyi would encounter the person who would become the most terrifying nightmare of her life, Liang Baiming. Liang Baiming was working as an assistant at the club at the time, studying while working part-time to support himself. From their very first meeting, Ruyi's lively, cheerful, and energetic personality immediately caught his attention. From then on, besides diligently guiding and supporting her at work as a senior colleague, Baiming began pursuing her passionately in private. Baiming was born and raised in Hong Kong, and at 25 years old that year, he was exactly 7 years older than Ruyi. His family also had 3 siblings, just like Ruyi's. However, Baiming's childhood was far from peaceful. His parents had worked in public relations in Macau, but his father later got into trouble with the law for robbery and was imprisoned. When he was young, every time his mother took him to visit his father in prison, she would lie and say his father worked there as a staff member. Young Baiming innocently believed his mother for many years. It wasn't until he grew up, when relatives and acquaintances mocked him as the son of a prisoner, that he finally understood the harsh truth. His father wasn't working at the prison, but was actually serving time there. By the time Baiming reached high school, his father had finished his sentence and decided to move to mainland China for work, leaving him, his mother, and siblings behind in Hong Kong to fend for themselves. The burden on his mother grew heavier, and by 2003, unable to bear the pressure, she developed depression. After graduating from high school, Baiming started working various jobs to make ends meet. He worked as a warehouse manager, a waiter, a sports club assistant, and many other odd jobs. Being a sports enthusiast himself, Baiming worked hard to obtain his fitness instructor certification. Not stopping there, he also completed courses to become a Muay Thai instructor and studied sports management. Perhaps because they shared a passion for sports, Ruyi gradually developed feelings for Baiming. His care and attention at work, combined with their similar interests, made the young woman's heart flutter. Soon after, the two officially began dating and quickly fell deeply in love. Just 1 month after they started dating, Ruyi decided to move in with Baiming at his place. In the early stages of their relationship, the couple could be described as inseparable, always wanting to be together. Baiming showered his girlfriend with affection, handing over his entire monthly salary for Ruyi to manage without any hesitation. Not only that, he willingly paid for her to take a lifeguard training course. His level of devotion knew no limits. At home, whenever Ruyi acted cute and asked for something, he would even carry her on his back to the bathroom right in front of his own mother without any embarrassment. As for Ruyi, she also hand-knitted a scarf for her boyfriend to show her love. Actually, Baiming wasn't new to romance. He had started dating as early as high school. Ruyi was in fact the fourth person on his romantic record. Notably, all three previous relationships ended because Baiming himself initiated the breakup. In particular, his third girlfriend was dumped specifically because he had met and fallen for Ruyi. According to people around them, among all his past relationships, Ruyi was the one Baiming was most infatuated with and devoted to. However, although both shared a passion for sports, their personalities were completely opposite. Ruyi was a cheerful, open, and outgoing girl, always surrounded by many friends, quite a few of whom were male. In contrast, Baiming was introverted, quiet, and reserved. More concerning, he had a strong tendency to control his girlfriend, always wanting to know where she went, what she did, and who she met. Just 1 month after moving in together, the first conflict erupted. That day, Ruyi made plans to hang out with a male friend. That evening, she casually called Baiming to inform him she would be out all night, and the next day she planned to go on a river cruise, so she wouldn't be coming home tonight. Upon hearing this, Baiming became furious. He was extremely displeased and tried hard to persuade her, demanding his girlfriend come home immediately. But Ruyi firmly refused. Unexpectedly, after being rejected, Baiming chose to harm himself. When she heard the news, Ruyi rushed home in a panic, abandoning her plans, and called the police to take him to the hospital for emergency treatment. After that incident, Baiming became obsessed with the fear of losing his girlfriend. He worried constantly, always carrying the anxiety that someone else would steal Ruyi away from him. Because of this, his control over his girlfriend escalated to a suffocating level. He not only frequently searched through Ruyi's phone, but interrogated her about every suspicious call or message, demanding detailed explanations for every word. Ruyi increasingly felt suffocated and annoyed by this excessive control. Sometimes, out of frustration, she would deliberately exchange ambiguous messages with other male friends just to irritate Baiming. As a result, the two constantly got into arguments, each fight more intense than the last, and their once passionate relationship rapidly deteriorated. In this state of constant tension and arguments, about 7 or 8 months passed. On February 12, 2008, Ruyi made plans to go sing karaoke with Zheng Qiaoru, a female colleague, just for fun. Thinking his girlfriend was just going out with another girl, Baiming didn't pay much attention or worry about it. However, the karaoke session that day didn't just involve the two of them. Some of Qiaoru's friends also joined and brought along their own friends. And so, during that lively gathering, Ruyi happened to meet a man named Awen, a 25-year-old chef. The next day, Baiming unexpectedly received a phone call from Zheng Qiaoru. She said she couldn't just stand by and ignore what she had seen, so she called to warn Baiming that his girlfriend might be having a change of heart. Not stopping there, Qiaoru even sent Awen's phone number to Baiming, telling him he should text the guy a warning so he would know to stay away. Baiming immediately followed through, repeatedly sending warning messages to Awen. However, the other party never once replied or responded to any of the messages. Getting no reaction from Awen, Baiming turned to interrogate his girlfriend. Ruyi felt extremely annoyed by this kind of questioning, believing Baiming was interfering too deeply in her personal freedom. In a spirit of rebellion, she deliberately texted Awen even more frequently. A week passed with escalating tension, and Baiming grew increasingly anxious and restless. Finally, in a surprising decision, he himself was the one who proposed breaking up with Ruyi. Without a moment's hesitation or attempt to hold on, Ruyi agreed immediately. But just 1 day after the breakup, Baiming regretted it. He continuously called and texted, apologizing and begging to get back together. But this time, Ruyi had made up her mind firmly. She had no intention of going back or giving him any more chances. On February 20th, Ruyi packed her belongings and moved back to her own home, officially ending their time living together with Baiming. After returning to single life, Awen began openly pursuing her. With Awen's sincere attention and her own desire to move on after the suffocating previous relationship, the two quickly got together and became a couple. On February 24th, Baiming sent Ruyi a worrying message. He said he didn't want to live anymore. After reading it, Rui replied that she couldn't bear to watch him keep wallowing in misery like that, hoping he would come to his senses and stop before the cliff's edge and not do anything foolish. But her advice had no effect. From 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. on the 25th, Beiming continuously called Rui, every few minutes another call, totaling 26 calls. But most weren't answered and went straight to voicemail. Falling into despair, Beiming locked himself in his room and swallowed 100 painkillers at once, then proceeded to harm himself further. It wasn't until noon that day that Beiming's mother sensed something was wrong. She used a spare key to open her son's locked bedroom door and in horror discovered his critical condition before rushing him to the hospital for emergency treatment. Beiming came back from the brink of death, fortunately surviving. Throughout his 10 days of hospitalization, he kept sending heartfelt messages to Rui, hoping to move her heart. But Rui didn't respond to a single message, and she didn't inquire or show any concern about his hospitalization whatsoever. Out of deep worry for her son, Beiming's mother quietly hid away all sharp objects in the house, making sure nothing dangerous was within his reach. The consequences of his extreme behavior also quickly caught up. After being discharged from the hospital, Beiming lost his job. But he didn't seem to care about that at all. His mind now had only one thought: how to get back together with Rui. Beiming called Rui many times, desperately asking to meet her just once, but was flatly refused each time. However, Rui wasn't completely heartless. She still tried to advise him over the phone. "Stop doing stupid things. Even if you do this, we still can't be together. I'd rather you go kill someone else than watch you hurt yourself. If you go to prison, at least your mother will know her son is still alive. You care too much about getting something in return. I'm not going to quickly get back together with you because of that." Rui's advice did nothing to help Beiming let go of his obsession. But what was even more frightening was that he didn't realize that her casual remark, "I'd rather you go kill someone else than hurt yourself," had quietly planted a dark idea in his mind, and the target of that idea was gradually pointing toward her. On March 5th, Beiming continued attending his criminal psychology course at the Chinese University of Hong Kong as usual. After class, he kept sending messages to Rui, totaling 21 messages in just one evening. The first few messages still carried a gentle, caring tone full of affection, expressing his longing and desire to reconcile. But when he saw that Rui wasn't responding positively, Beiming's patience quickly ran out. The tone in his messages gradually shifted from friendly and warm to cold and bitter, and finally into malicious threats. In the later messages, he began blaming Rui, putting all the fault on her, claiming she was the one who pushed him into such a desperate situation. He was furious that she thought she could just end everything so easily by saying, "Let's break up." Not stopping there, Beiming also demanded that Rui repay all the money he had spent on her during their time together. That evening, Beiming went directly to Rui's workplace and waited for her to finish her shift. When Rui came out, the two immediately got into a heated argument right there. Beiming made a series of demands. Besides wanting back the phone he had given Rui and his apartment keys, he also demanded she pay for living expenses and pocket money during the time they lived together. The total amount he demanded came to 12,000 Hong Kong dollars, approximately 1,540 US dollars. Not wanting to drag things out, Rui gave Beiming all 3,000 Hong Kong dollars, about 385 US dollars, she had on her and promised to pay the remaining 9,000 Hong Kong dollars, about 1,155 US dollars, in installments. Hearing this, Beiming didn't make things more difficult. He thought to himself that this was actually fine. At least the installment payments would give them chances to meet a few more times. After getting home, Rui told her second sister and her sister's boyfriend the whole story. After hearing everything, the sister's boyfriend decided to call Beiming directly, advising him to stop bothering Rui. He said that since they had once loved each other and been together for a while, there was no need to calculate money so precisely. Now that they had broken up, they should part on good terms, each going their separate ways. But Beiming wouldn't accept that advice. He stubbornly insisted on getting his money back no matter what, and even made a threat. "My hand and my life are already gone. What else do I have to fear?" The sister's boyfriend immediately recognized the dangerous threat in those words. Worried that Beiming might do something extreme that could endanger Ru Yi, he immediately took her to the police station to file a report. However, after hearing their account, the police assessed this as just an ordinary romantic dispute with low risk. They only created a file to record the incident, but didn't take any further measures or intervention. On March 6th, Beiming's attitude suddenly changed completely from the previous days. He sent an apologetic message to Ru Yi, his tone becoming soft and full of regret. He said that the time spent with her was the happiest days of his life. Everything he had done, no matter how crazy or extreme, was only because he didn't want to lose her. At the end of his message, he said he hoped Ru Yi would be true to herself, and he just asked to be friends with her in the future. That would be enough. However, Ru Yi still didn't bother paying attention to these messages. She didn't respond with a single word. That evening, Beiming quietly went to a sports goods store. There, he purchased a large survival knife and a short-handled pointed knife. Early the next morning, March 7th, Beiming sat down and wrote a suicide note. He left the contact number for an insurance company, then neatly placed all 8,000 Hong Kong dollars, about 1,025 US dollars, all the money he had, in his room for his mother. After preparing everything, he held on to one last hope and sent a message to Ru Yi. "I can't lose you. Can you please not treat me this way?" But like every time before, that message sank into silence with no reply. At exactly 8 a.m. that day, Beiming appeared at the foot of the building where Ru Yi lived. His left hand was still in a cast from the self-inflicted injury that hadn't fully healed. His right hand wore a wrist guard, and the 2 knives he had bought the night before were hidden on his person. About half an hour later, Ru Yi's second sister and her boyfriend left the house for work. Right as they stepped out, they ran into Beiming loitering there. The sister asked what he was doing there. Beiming calmly lied, saying he was just there to return some clothes to Ru Yi. The sister felt worried thinking about her younger sister home alone, afraid she would be harassed by Beiming. She quickly made up a lie, saying Ru Yi had already left for work, and if he wanted to return clothes, she could accept them on her behalf. She even invited Beiming to leave with them in a taxi, but Beiming refused the offer. He just kept waiting there until the sister and her boyfriend got in a taxi and disappeared from sight before he made his move. Only then did Beiming enter Shek Ka house. The sister was still worried. As soon as she got in the car, she hurriedly called her younger sister to specifically remind her to be careful and stay safe. Beiming went up to Ru Yi's floor but didn't knock. Instead, he quietly hid to one side, patiently waiting for her to open the door and leave for work. At 10:50 a.m., Ru Yi opened the door to step out. Immediately, Beiming lunged out from his hiding spot and forcefully shoved her back inside the apartment. After bursting into the apartment, Beiming repeatedly asked Ru Yi if she still loved him, and once again begged her to take him back. But Ru Yi firmly refused, telling him bluntly that no one could love a person who casually harms himself like he did. Not only that, she declared that she already had a new boyfriend. Hearing this, Beiming tried to embrace Ru Yi, but was met with fierce resistance. She demanded he leave the house immediately, or she would call the police. Just as Ru Yi turned her back, letting her guard down for a moment, Beiming in his desperation pulled out a knife and stabbed her. Even as Ru Yi begged, even as she cried and pleaded for her life, Beiming didn't stop. He had completely lost his mind, plunging the knife into the woman he once claimed to love the most, stab after stab. Finally, after everything was over, he bent down and kissed the severed head of his ex-girlfriend as a final farewell. After committing these horrific acts, Beiming placed his suicide note and ID card in Ru Yi's room, then intended to step out onto the balcony and jump to his death to end his life. But at that moment, the words his girlfriend had once said to him echoed in his mind. "Even if you go to prison, at least let your mother know her son is still alive." So he abandoned his plan to kill himself. Right at that moment, Zheng Qiaoru happened to call. Beiming answered and calmly told her what he had just done. Qiaoru couldn't believe her ears. Thinking he was joking, she asked, "Do you know what the consequences of killing someone are?" Beiming answered tersely, "Prison." Only then did Xiaoru suddenly realize that something terrible had really happened. Immediately after, Beiming asked Xiaoru to call the police for him. After hanging up, he himself dialed the 999 emergency line to report the crime. Next, he called his mother and said, "I did something wrong. Your legs aren't good, so don't go running around." After that brief call, he sat quietly in the blood-soaked apartment, calmly waiting for the police to arrive. After being arrested, Beiming admitted to all his crimes without any denial or evasion. He stated that he wore the wrist guard so he could exert more force when striking. He also frankly admitted that starting March 6th, he had been planning this murder. Notably, Beiming believed that Rui's earlier advice, "I'd rather you go kill someone else than hurt yourself," was actually hinting at, even encouraging him to kill her. On April 15th, 2009, the case officially went to trial at the Hong Kong High Court. Beiming sat in the defendant's seat with a cold, expressionless face. Before the trial began, through his defense lawyer, Beiming argued that he was mentally disturbed when he committed the crime, thereby only admitting to manslaughter rather than murder. However, based on evidence collected from multiple sources, the prosecution countered that he only suffered from adjustment disorder due to emotional loss, not a serious mental disturbance that would have affected his judgment and awareness when committing the crime. During the trial, Beiming's lawyer argued in his defense that when his client went to find Rui on March 7th, he had no intention of killing her. He only wanted to scare her a bit. His original plan was that if Rui didn't agree to get back together, he would end everything right in front of her. The lawyer added that during their conversation, Rui used severely insulting language, berating him that his hand was already crippled, he had no job, and he was no longer a real man. It was such provocation that caused Beiming to lose control of his emotions and kill her in a moment of rage. Regarding the statement Beiming had given to police earlier, he explained that at the time he was in a state of despair, only thinking about being charged with murder, so he pretended to say it was premeditated. As for the real reason he brought the knives, he said it was because they were his favorite items, and he wanted to have them with him when facing death. When questioned by the prosecutor, Beiming offered another explanation. He said that when he pulled out the knife and pointed it at Rui, he actually intended to use it to harm himself right in front of her, making her panic and stop him, which would lead her to get back together with him. He admitted this reasoning sounded irrational, but at the time he didn't understand why he thought that way. Throughout the trial, Beiming appeared extremely calm, almost emotionless. When asked about the detailed sequence of events during the crime, he simply said he didn't want to remember what happened that day anymore. It was only when the court displayed the two murder weapons right in front of him that he lost control of his emotions for the first and only time, breaking down in anguish. The prosecution strongly refuted the defense's arguments, claiming this was merely a way to shift all responsibility onto the deceased to protect himself. They pointed out that in the 2 weeks before she was killed, Rui had never once insulted or offended Beiming in any message. How could anyone believe that suddenly, on the day of the murder, she would recklessly challenge and provoke an ex-boyfriend holding two knives? The prosecution also pointed out that Beiming's brutal behavior afterward was evidence that he had not lost consciousness as claimed by the defense. When giving his statement at the police station, he appeared extremely calm and lucid, showing no signs of panic or fear whatsoever. He could fully understand and coherently answer all questions the police asked, contrary to his claim in court that he didn't want to remember the killing. Therefore, the prosecution maintained that the statement he gave to police immediately after his arrest was the most truthful and accurate. On April 23rd, both prosecution and defense officially concluded their arguments in court. The next day, the 7-member jury retired to deliberate in private. After 4 hours of careful consideration, they reached a unanimous verdict that Beiming was guilty of murder. When delivering the sentence, the judge harshly rebuked Beiming for his cold-bloodedness and cruelty. He emphasized that the entire process of the crime would make anyone who heard about it shudder in horror. Finally, the judge sentenced Beiming to life imprisonment. On April 28, 2010, Beiming's appeal was rejected. The case was closed. What are your thoughts on this case? Please share in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.